Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be looking at the destruction effects in Teardown. This is the first video in the Destruction Impression series, and I think it's only appropriate to begin with Teardown. As you probably already know, it's quite awesome. You shoot something, it responds. Explosives will destroy whatever's around them, and even if you hit a bridge with a ship, everything will respond. That blew me away when I first began messing around with the game. In this video, we'll be having a look at the response mechanics and the limitations of those features. So, let's dive right into it and see what we have. Everything you see in the environment is made of voxels, small blocks, and every single one of those small blocks will respond. And that, right there, is the level of detail in fracturing. You'll see to the block accurate response for everything, be it gunshots, a fire, or an entire crane falling. And blocks will respond differently based on what material the block represents, be it wood, glass, concrete, metal, or something else. That affects how destructible it is, whether it's flammable, and the weight of the block. And speaking of weight, they really got it just about right. So let's say you shoot an RPG at a building. The way the debris falls, the weight of it feels correct. And that's the case with pretty much everything. It's not a feature you can just take for granted. I've seen several games where debris looks floaty or just feels unnatural in some way. So while it may seem simple and basic, getting it just about right is probably not very simple. There are some more crucial basics you can see in this clip. Falling debris or any falling object may damage whatever it hits. And it can break upon landing. All of it, of course, with to the block level of detail. Fire simulation is also a key feature in the game. So, flammable objects can be set on fire, either by a torch or from an explosion, and it will spread from there in a realistic manner. As you can see, the blocks will get visibly damaged by the fire, until they are consumed by it entirely. And nearby blocks that are not flammable will mainly get damaged, though I have seen some get destroyed. I've seen holes poked in brick walls, and I've seen missing blocks in what looks like a metal bar. You will see burning debris fall, and in many cases, it will set on fire whatever it lands on. Seeing this was one of the many damn moments I had when I began getting familiar with the game. Just very impressive. And you have smoke simulation that will respond to the environment. So you don't have smoke just going up through the ceiling. You will see it spread and behave realistically even as the environment changes. All of that delivers the most realistic burning simulation I personally ever saw in a game. The main limitation I've seen in this specific aspect is how much fire and smoke you can have going at a time. That's entirely a performance thing, and with current hardware, the limits are more than reasonable. Though it would be good to have control over that, over how much fire, smoke and debris you can have. I'd probably even lower the debris values now, but it would be interesting to see if I can push things further in 5 or 10 years as the hardware gets better. A few more details. On explosions, you have visible damage around the blocks that broke off. I'm not sure if it's only cosmetic or if those blocks are weaker after that, but regardless, it looks quite cool. You can sink ships, partially or fully. As you can see, it's far from a realistic sinking simulator, but it can deliver fun moments. And you have rope and cable simulation. Now let's talk about some of the limitations the game has. The big one that always gets mentioned is of course the lack of structural integrity. You essentially can have massive structures be held up by a single block. There is actually a mod for that called Structural Integrity Test. As you can see, it will make the responses look better, but it can also be quite heavy on performance. And that's likely the main reason you don't have this feature in vanilla game. You already have quite a lot going on, so adding more calculations on top, at the moment, probably not a great idea. There are some things the voxel destruction doesn't work very well for, like the response for damaging vehicles, vegetation too. At the moment, the cable simulation is probably the roughest of all aspects. You can't cut the cable itself, only the connecting parts. And there are oddities like this. And you don't have much terrain deformation. I do want to emphasize though, the keyword here is limitations rather than issues. At the moment, you can't have everything when it comes to destruction, even in a blocky graphical style, and as you can see, the game already has, really, a lot going for it. I think the only issue I have with the game is the lack of combat, but that's not what this video is about. So, in conclusion, I think the destruction is amazing. You have very dynamic to the block level of detail, and, despite some limitations, it is some of the best response in terms of destruction we currently have. You can see a lot went into making the response feel as good as it does. And hopefully, this game will help popularize the idea that truly responsive environments are actually quite awesome, and that proper response is something that should be taken into account. Even if it's not as detailed as this, seeing the environments get gradually torn apart in combat as the fight goes on delivers an awesome feel. Something that flashy, pre-made, scripted events just can't do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I do want to hear your feedback on this, and stay tuned for more videos on the subject of destruction. I'll be covering new games, some of the classics, and some indie games that I think you should know about. Also, if you have any suggestions, do leave them in the comments below. Until next time!